for the last, I don't know, 6 months, I'm taking an iodine biotics, and I take a liquid iodine forte, and you can get it. It's really cheap, and I take 5 drops a day, and I give my dog 2 drops. Just to try to help with my hair started falling out. And I'm not even like directly involved with, I think I'm just a lot more sensitive, but the Wi-Fi and all that stuff. And I have like a spectacular diet. But the Wi-Fi was getting the best of me, you know, the smart meters were getting the best of me, and the accumulation of the radiation, microwave radiation that was getting into my body was starting to make my hair fall out. My gums were starting to recede, and my teeth, I had 2 teeth that started cracking, and those are signs of radiation poisoning, right? And I'm not even, you know, directly in it. So the thing is that once they flip, you know, the 5G on in your area, you know, it's just going to be like game over. I mean, we have to really fight that. We have to stop these people from burning down these nuclear plants, and we have to really, in order to get rid of them so that they don't have to like actually clean them up. And one of the things that, you know, this whole thing about this high-speed rail through California, if you go on and you look at the maps, exactly the towns that they're burning through are the destined area that they want to put this whole high-speed rail through California in. Now, obviously, if you have nuclear plants that are, you know, contaminated and are sitting there and have been abandoned, and you want to run your high-speed rail through there, well, the government, you know, nobody's going to want to build that for you and tear down. You know how much it would cost to just tear down the nuclear facility in order to build your ram through there? Now, if they burn it down, then everybody can ignore it, that it was like a super nuclear site, that it still has major contamination 4 feet under the ground, that, you know, nuclear radiation is like completely airborne. But if there's nothing left, you know, on the surface to clean up, they don't have to clean it up. So this is like a way for them to get rid of whatever they want to get rid of in order to pursue their financial goals of doing whatever they're going to do. I mean, I can't even imagine, like, can you imagine commuting every day on the high-speed rail through that nuclear radioactive area? Just because it's not visible doesn't mean that it's not highly active.
Oh, heck no. And in fact, the amount of material for the level of admission just means that very small amounts of material have very high emissions. And so makes you wonder a whole lot if there's another agenda altogether that has to do with nuclear energy at a level that they haven't explained to the public because they A, don't think we can grasp it, or B, care to keep it away for profit for a few generations and then roll it out to people who won't ask the questions that we're likely to ask right now. But there's...
Well, you know, this is funny because I sent Richard, you know, the link about the guy when he was first coming out, and he was explaining this super site, and that, you know, the Woolsey fire is butt up against it and it's burning it down, blah, 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 blah. And I sent Richard Allen Miller, who's a friend of Lenny and mine, I sent him the link, and he sent me this email back going, oh my God, holy shit, holy crap. This is like, oh my God. He's like totally freaked out about it, you know, because the people that understand this whole nuclear situation are like, oh my God, this is like the worst possible thing that could happen. Like the worst possible thing that could happen. And Richard, being a physicist or whatever, understands like the whole nuclear, you know, radioactive situation. Then the rest of the people, you know, you send the email out to, they're like, oh, okay. Well, at least all the nuclear, I got one email back, they said, well, at least all the nuclear radiation's been burned up now. We don't have to worry about that anymore. I was like, you know, the thing is, like, the agenda of people being so uneducated in the United States and a lot of this information being left out, I mean, I think that no one could wrap their head around any kind of nuclear nothing. and this is the other thing that is so unbelievable to me. I have clients in the past. Okay, so if they need to find something in your body, right? And people will say, well, there's not a lot of, so you could get a lot of x-rays and they will crack your teeth, right? Because, one chemo treatment is equivalent to 380 x-rays, right? So that's enough to way past the point that could cause cancer. So mammograms that they give you will give you cancer because you have them over and over, and they shoot 100% nuclear, radiation into your breast to look into it. So eventually you will have breast cancer because you have radiation that is being, sent into your breast year after year after year with your mammogram. Now, if you have a tumor in your breast and they mash it in the machine, it causes the tumor to bust, and now you have mastocystic cancer, which starts to go everywhere in your body right away, right? And because you're radioactive, it's going to be really easy because your body's already been breaking down because you've had lots of x-rays. Oh, and the dentist x-rays. Oh, let's just talk about that. Dentist x-ray machines are not at like a safe level no matter what, and they're x-raying your head, right? Now in the U.S., if you go to the dentist, which I don't do, I try to do everything naturally, now you are forced to have dental x-rays every 18 months. So basically every time you go to the dentist for a cleaning, you have to have x-rays to your brain and head, which cause cancer. And because I've had brain cancer in the past, now I can't go just to have my teeth cleaned because I can't afford to actually have radiation, forced into my head. So people will say, well, the MRI machine isn't, that radioactive. But what do? If they really need to find something in your body, they inject you with a nuclear cocktail, a nuclear radiation cocktail that goes into your veins, right? They use it to find plaque. They use it to find cancers. They use it to find different things. So they might not even tell you that they're injecting, and not all the time when you go in and have an MRI scan do they use the nuclear cocktail. But if they inject you with anything before you go into the MRI machine, usually it is a nuclear cocktail. And usually you have to wait several hours at the hospital. And then sometimes they don't even tell you that you're radioactive, right? And then cancer treatments, like sometimes with prostate cancer, they'll inject a nuclear seed into the prostate, right? Like literally, they call it radiation, but it's a nuclear seed, which is going to give you a different kind of cancer in 7 years, right? So you'll get a type of cancer that won't be able to be cured. So they're actually just helping you to get worse cancer. It may seem like it gets rid of the cancer temporarily, but, it's not. So I remember my grandfather, they gave him a nuclear seed in his prostate. And I remember my grandmother, this is like 20 years ago, I said to her, well, you can't be around him in the house. She said, well, they didn't say that at the hospital. I said, they planted a radioactive nuclear seed in his prostate. All of his urine, his saliva, and sweat is radioactive, and it's going to be highly radioactive for a period of time. And she's like, well, they did send me home with a thing to make sure, that I use gloves and stuff, to clean up the bathroom and stuff, especially, after he uses it. Just kind of as a, more of a microbial thing. And I said, well, no, they're trying to tell you that he's nuclear reactive without telling you he's nuclear reactive. And at the time, one of my cousins was like pregnant. And I said, you cannot have her over to the house in any way, shape, or form. You can't have small children in the house near him. You shouldn't be near him. You need to move out of the house, and for 3 years, he's going to be majorly radioactive, right? But they just don't talk to people about this stuff because, number one, they don't want you to know, because then you might start investigating, how they're giving everyone cancer with radiation, regardless if it's microwave radiation or it's nuclear radiation. And those things are, common in healthcare. You got x-rays, chemotherapy. I have a friend of mine who is an oncologist, and I'll tell this story because this will maybe help people to wrap their heads around healthcare. She was an oncologist, and she was adamant about chemo and how they treated cancer, and because the studies came back that the people, when they died, their corpses, so the chemo may have killed them, but they were cancer free. Well, it's because the chemo killed every possible thing in their system, killed every cell, bacteria, microbe. There was nothing to test whether the person had cancer or not. So this is what they base their tests on in healthcare, is like, when they do an autopsy on you or whatever, you die. I mean, there's no evidence that you had cancer. So as far as they're concerned, they cured your cancer, but you probably died of chemo poisoning, but they're not going to tell anybody about that. So she, one day she had no contact with her chemo patients, really. They would come in, and then she'd give them a new prescription for the week. They'd have all their tests done. She'd look at the test or whatever, and she'd give them their new prescription for their chemo. If they fought her, she would tell them things like, then, we're not going to be able to treat you at this hospital anymore. And if we put this in your file that you denied treatment by, a doctor, then your insurance is probably going to drop you, and also you're not going to get another doctor to help you. I mean, these are the kind of tactics that they use, right? She used. So one day she was walking past them. In a lot of the hospitals, they have these comfy chemo areas, right? And I know because I've interned in hospitals. I've done internship in Western medicine, alternative medicine. I really big into wilderness medicine when I was younger, so I could put in bone fractures, because I'd have to save people out in the wilderness in order to get them out. So I have like a lot of really heavy medical survival training type stuff, tracheotomy, whatever I need to do in order to keep somebody alive, out in the outback. So and I've done internships. So they have these comfy areas that they have with these recliners, and then they'll have everybody set up there, and there's no smoking allowed in the chemo area. Why? Because guess what? It's radiation. It can catch on fire, and it could be a really bad fire, right? Just like microwave radiation. These 5G towers that cause these fires, and their fires are epic. So they have comfy areas where you get your chemo treatment, and there's like 15 people, and they're all lined up in these nice little comfy chairs, and they give you the chemo. So anyway, one day she's walking past the chemo area, and she sees smoke coming up from the ground. But she's in such denial about the type of work that she does and what it's doing to people, because she has no real relationship to chemo or her treatments of cancer, right? And she, out of the corner of her eye, she's walking past the comfy area. She doesn't even look at the people, because she can't. She can't do her job and actually look at the people that are getting the chemo treatments that she's forcing them to have under force of the hospital. And she just catches out of their eye like the smoke, and it looks like it's coming from the chair. And so she goes to the nurse's station. She doesn't even really directly look over there. She goes to the nurse's station, and she says to the nurses, that the chemo patients aren't allowed to smoke. And the nurse goes, we don't allow any smoking in the hospital. And sure enough, we don't allow any smoking. If they want to smoke a doob or a cigarette or whatever, they have to wait till their treatment's over and they can go outside. There's not anybody smoking over there. And she goes, no, I saw smoke, and you need to go over there, and you need to put it out or do whatever you need to do, and give them a warning and just say next time this happens, like, they're not going to be allowed back for chemo treatment or whatever else. And so the nurse is like, just like, holy shit, So she goes over there, and she realizes that the IV for the chemo had fallen out, and the guy was asleep because they gave him some painkillers. Because, the chemo, first-time people usually, there's quite a few people, 25% of the people that don't survive their first chemo treatment. They have a heart attack or a stroke and die, usually like right after, because it's so severe on people's system that they can't take it, right? And so a lot of people just can't really take it. So sometimes they'll give them a little pain medicine or whatever else, and they pass out during it. Well, this older guy, and it fell out, and it was hanging off. The IV was kind of like hanging off the machine that was dripping the chemo into the guy's body, full scale, full level chemo. And it was dripping onto the floor. Well, it was eating the tile, and so the chemical in what they were putting in his body was basically eating the floor, and the smoke was a chemical smoke actually coming from the floor because of the contact of the chemo.
Sure. It was an acid solution that was reacting with the surface of the plastic or whatever was on the floor, or some of the things they used to clean it, and it was just combustible to the point where it was smoking.
Right. But the horrifying thing is that they were putting that in someone's body.
Yeah.
And you can't trust doctors at all. You can't trust anybody at all anymore.
You can only trust your own judgment.
So about 6 months later, she just says that she starts to feel really, really sick. So she decides that she's going to get a test, but she doesn't want to have a test at her hospital, you know. She suspects that she may have cancer. And on some psychological deep level, she doesn't really want to have, she knows this later on, but she said her denial factor is that, you know, she doesn't want to have to undergo her own treatment or the treatment that the hospital is going to want her to have. So she decides that she is going to go to another state. She has a friend of hers that's a doctor. So they make up a fake name for her, and then they run her blood through just to see what's going to happen. And it comes back, and she ends up having pretty serious cancer. And I can't remember what kind of cancer she had. I think it was like pancreatic cancer, which is like one of the worst fucking cancers to die from. Hands down. Bone cancer and pancreatic cancer, the most painful cancers there are. I mean, it is like an excruciating, long-ass death. Anyway, but there's a lot of alternative things out there that at that point in time that she could use. I mean, now none of that stuff's going to help you against all the nuclear fallout and the 5G. None of it will help you. So, anyway, so what happened was that she comes back to the hospital, and she tells them basically that she's going to have like a leave of absence. And she tells one of her friends at the hospital that she just found out that she has pancreatic cancer, and she's going to take like a leave of absence for 3 months. And she applies for the leave of absence just, you know, to have like some time off because she just feels really stressed out. But she doesn't tell the hospital or anybody else that she has a cancer. Well, it gets around to the board of the hospital that she has cancer, and that's why she wants the time off. So they call her in, and they basically say, well, we don't understand why you want to take time off. And she said, well, I want to look at my options, my cancer options. And they said, your cancer options? And she said, yeah, I want to look at, you know, look into diet and some other things and just see what my options are for my cancer treatment. The board goes, well, there's only one cancer treatment, and that's the cancer treatment that we provide at the hospital. And she said, well, I'm just not ready for that yet. And I really like the time off, and I'd really like to, look at my options. I don't know what other options are out there alternatively. Because, you know, once it came to her own body, she was like, well, I don't want that treatment. I don't want to go through the cancer treatment that I've been giving people. Like, not interested in that at all. So they say, okay, we'll give you a leave of absence for 3 months, whatever. So at the end of a month, they call her in to the board, and so they pressure her. They said, so when are you going to start treatment here at the hospital? And she's like, well, I've decided, you know, that's not what I'm going to do. She started getting into raw food, and she found out that she was so severely nutritional depleted that no other alternative treatment was going to work unless she could get, you know, nutrient back in her body. And so her body was no longer actively, you know, metabolizing, digesting nutrient. Her colon wasn't really working. It was really, you know, sick and thick of, just wasn't in good shape. So she ended up she did juicing enemas. So she would 3 times a day, you know, juice carrots and all kinds of different stuff, and literally give herself a juice enema so that her colon could actually absorb the nutrient, immediately, because her body was no longer digesting properly and it wasn't metabolizing the nutrient that she was ingesting, right? So, and so that started to help her health a lot. And so she just told the hospital, no, I think I'm going to really, keep working on this diet and these, juicing enemas. And this is kind of the path that I'm going. And I'm kind of working like a naturopath and blah, 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 blah. And they freaked out. They said, well, you realize, like, we can't have you working at the hospital as a oncologist if you don't take the prescribed and recommended treatment. And she's like, well, that's not the choice that I really want to make. And they said, well, then, we need your resignation. And she's like, excuse me? And they said, yeah, we would like your resignation within a week. And mind you, if you're a doctor, it costs about $200,000 a year for you to practice medicine, which is barbaric therapy, on the public. And so if you're not working for a hospital, hospitals pay that $200,000 for you for the medical insurance. So if you're not really working with a hospital and all your patients are from a hospital and you're getting paid, you're not going to be able to afford to be in practice anyway outside. So once they want you to resign, it's like game over. You're never going to be able to get a practice going again. So she realized all this stuff. So she decided she was going to resign, and then from the hospital. And then what she did is she also resigned her medical license. She got rid of her medical license, and she's now like some kind of, raw food nutritionalist trying to help people. But this is, the sickness and the deception and the fraud and the scam and it's coming from every possible avenue that we're involved in, right? It's coming from the medical system. It's coming from the educational system. It's coming from our neighborhoods. It's coming from our churches. It's coming from our family members. It's coming from, every possible avenue. And we really have to work really, really hard to actually start, finding information out there. And one of the things, like, I don't have a lot of friends anymore, obviously. All my family is dead because of a lot of my family members lived in California in the Fresno area and the food belt down there. And, there's been DDT, and they've changed the name, and they're still spraying DDT and stuff like that. And there's a nuclear reactor down in Fresno that leaks, 1,000 CPMs daily of radiation. So, I've lost pretty much all my family members, from 98 to 2003. So everybody, because of the, chemical poisoning and the nuclear, poisoning and everything else, they've all died. So I don't really have a whole lot of family. And so nowadays, I don't really make friends easily because, it's not that I'm not nice. I am nice. But I'm not putting up with a lot of, people's behavior, their comments. They don't have enough long-term background to really understand what's going on. I've been in alternative medicine, and I come from 2 bloodlines, and I've been practicing shamanism and native type work and medicine and all these other things for a long time. And then I have some Western medicine stuff, and I have continued education, and also I've been involved with a lot of this other stuff, for like 30 years as an activist. And I also, in 2009, when they tried to arrest me and they forced me out of my private practice, and I was booked like 3 months in advance. I saw anywhere from 6 to 7 people a day. They, 4 big legal attacks on me, which I survived. I had to learn common law to fight them back. But now, my reputation has been kind of destroyed. I mean, I still have a lot of clients I've had for over, 20 years that I see privately, but not as much as before. And in 2009, I actually fought the legislature because they tried to pass laws eliminating anything alternative in the state of Nevada. They called it the Complementary Medicine Act. Would have shut down 1,500 supplement stores. You wouldn't have been able to buy a supplement even online in the state of Nevada. And anything alternative as far as treatment or even a massage would have had to been prescribed by a doctor. Well, that's not going to happen. And I ended up single-handedly fighting that out of the legislature and the committee. But I ended up fighting against 50 bills. 47 of them I helped, kick out that they didn't get passed. And it almost killed me. I had to live on someone's couch. The police were after me. They were pulling me over. I was profiled. It was just like the most unbelievable, epic journey of my entire life. So, I tell people now, like, people want to, like, comment about all their, New Age or Ascension stuff or whatever their beliefs are and everything else. That, until you've gone to your legislature and you've actually participated in watching what they're doing. In 2009, I went from a conspiracist, but I was a good conspiracist because I met the people who invented the chip, for a good thing. I met people who came from the CIA who were tortured 27 years ago through these people that escaped from NASA, and all these original whistleblowers about what was going on. I met the guy who was tortured, who wrote a book, who exposed how the U.S. government gave almost a whole population of Africa smallpox vaccinations, which really had HIV in it, to eliminate basically brown people off the planet. And all these different kinds of people. So I always tell people now when I have, interactions with people, I'm kind of harsh. And I spent 6 months at the legislature, went from a conspiracist. I knew that I was more than a conspiracist then, but in 2009, but I went to a factualist because almost everything that's a conspiracy ends up in a bill in your state that they pass and you're not even paying attention to it. And so they actually have the legal right to do whatever they want to you, chip you or whatever. The Real ID Act in 2009, we fought down the first one, but they got the second one through. They would chip your babies in the hospital as soon as they were born without parent consent, and you would never know that your baby was chipped. And so Real ID is about the chipping of the population, right? So we have to kind of like get more of a, people have to get out there and they have to start paying attention to what's going on a political, a legal level, and turn the TV off and stop watching what they're like trying to deliver to you right into your brain, and that hypnotic digital wave that they're sending, which goes right into your subconscious mind, so you believe everything you see on the TV. And it is, they call it a dream state, and in that dream state, they can theta dream state, that hypnotic pulse from the digital TV, the smart TVs, and also like smart radio or whatever else. They can pulse in anything that they want. It's just like the whole St. Jude thing, where they say 1 in 5 children will get cancer. But thank God there's St. Jude's. We can chemotherapy your kids to death, and maybe your kid will survive if you're 1 in 5. It's like we have to turn that crap off, because what they're saying is they're assimilating us into the belief that 1 in 5 kids should have cancer. And if your kid doesn't have cancer, maybe there might be something wrong with you and your child. We have to get out of that digital pulse. It's a theta pulse. It's in the creative brainwave pattern that they send, and it goes right into your subconscious mind, and it just actually plants these belief systems in there, which makes it almost impossible to wake yourself up. And I have to tell you about this stupid...
Yeah?
So the guy in the house has, he has like, 4 TVs going, right? And 3 of them are like older smart TVs. Well, he buys a new smart TV, right? 3 weeks ago for his bedroom, right?
Right.
Now let me tell you about how creepy this TV is. Okay, as soon as he plugs it in and he gets it set up or whatever, it starts sending me messages on my tablet. Okay, so I get off his Wi-Fi, and I'm on my own data from the tower, and it's still trying to communicate with me so that I will allow it to sync with my tablet. So I'm thinking that's pretty creepy because it's trying to sync with people's cell phones in the neighborhood. And who can sync with it on the street, right? And why is it syncing with all this stuff so it can see what you're doing and map your house and do all this crazy stuff? So I talked to him about it. I said, hey, dude, your smart TV is trying to get me to make a mistake so it can infiltrate my tablet and so it can, control, take in the information in my tablet or what I'm watching and what I'm doing or whatever else. And periodically it'll try to it throws up a thing, and if I'm not paying attention at that time and I click on it, it starts to take all that information, right? So I have to be really careful with my tablet around here on the property so that my tablet isn't infiltrated and all the information is downloaded in this TV. I mean, who knows where it's going? It's nobody's business. So I said to him, your TV is basically like a robot, and it's trying to constantly get into my tablet all the time. And I said it keeps throwing up these windows, and it's basically trying to get me to allow my tablet to talk to the bedroom TV. That's what it throws up. Hi, it's the bedroom TV. Basically, hey, can I sync with your tablet? Kind of a deal. And so he's kind of paranoid about his information getting out anywhere, his identity theft. And I'm like, okay, if it's doing it to me and it's outside of your private Wi-Fi, I mean, think about how many people can pull up literally to your house and sync up with the TV. And if they're smart enough, download every bit of information about you that you have on your computer, that you have on your phone, that you have, through your whole house, all these different things, and they can, download it, right? And they can even map your house, how your house looks like, what door you go in and out of, how many dogs you have, how many people you have living there, how many are children, if you're smoking weed, if you're a drug dealer, whatever the hell it's going to be. And he just looks at me like, huh? I mean, and I'm like, you better check that TV out because I'll keep blocking it. I don't have a problem to keep blocking it, but maybe you should check it out. So he said, well, the TV doesn't work unless it's on Wi-Fi. So he has to have it on Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Because it won't work just with a cable, right? Or it won't work as a smart meter with cable. It has to be on Wi-Fi or the TV just doesn't work at all.
Imagine that. Anyway, we're in the last seconds of the show, so I want to thank our guest, Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff, Consciousness of Economics and Urban Farm Project. It's been great having you on this morning, Bridgette. Thanks a whole bunch.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me have a tangent today.
Sure. And this has been the New Way Radio Show on Steampunk Radio. And you've been listening to Dr. Lenny Thyme. Enjoy your day. All right, we're done. That was cool.